right, so now we're going to, now that we've kind of talked about the what and the why, looked at different practices that we can begin to incorporate into our math classroom to really bring out this disciplinary literacy instruction. Now, like I said, we want to be more hands-on today and really kind of get you guys in your lesson plans and your units that you're currently working on. And we're going to look at least 3 strategies today that we can begin to use and implement in our classroom. And the whole purpose of the workshop and the hands-on activities is that you can use these strategies tomorrow, that you'll be able to take them with you today as you plan in your small teams, and you will be able to then go and really begin to start this tomorrow. These strategies can be done. It is purposeful, it is good teaching practices, and it really, you're going to see the difference, or we will begin to see the difference of how it will begin to affect and change our students' learning. One of the ones we're going to look at today is called a problem-solving strategy. You will have these worksheets out on your tables, but I'll go over briefly, again, all of the activities that you're going to be doing, but one of them is the problem-solving strategy. That's going to help the students with their comprehension of the learning. The next one that you're going to be looking at today also is the semantic feature analysis. Now this, I have adapted it just a little bit because I know that we have some middle school teachers in the workshop as well as upper grade, so some high school and some middle school. So I kind of adapted the semantic feature analysis to accommodate all the teachers in the workshop. So it's a little bit more simplistic or simplified for that purpose, and just to kind of get your students started with this. But this activity is really designed for vocabulary purposes. And the last one is just the accountability talk. We're going to look at some of the word problems that you've chosen, and then we're going to show how we begin to build in some of those questions so that when we begin to bring that in, that talking, that conversation within our classrooms, you can kind of get an idea of how that is going to go. So the objective, again, when you leave here today, and I'm hoping that the goal will be met, but the objective, but your idea is that you as educators will be able to understand how to use your Common Core state standards, even be able to either use your math framework or your mathematical practices to really enhance the literacy within your math classroom. So the first thing that I want us to do, the first activity that we're going to look at, what you need to do for this activity is each of your tables, you have already been grouped based upon your current teaching level, and in the email that went out, you were asked to bring in your current TE and whatever lesson that you were working on. So what I need you to do now, at your table groups, you're going to go ahead and pull out those TEs. You're going to pull out your lesson or unit of study, whatever you are using to guide your instruction. Excuse me. To guide your instruction. And then what I want you to do at this point is that you're going to make sure all those materials are out on your desk. And then what you should have on your desk with you now is a sample of the semantic feature analysis handout. Now that handout is a blank sheet that you guys are going to actually design for your students, and then you're going to be able to take that back for your next unit or your next chapter, and you really will be able to bring in that vocabulary. I'm going to show you how you're going to do that. So again, the purpose of the semantic feature is really the rationale behind it is just a strategy, allows the students to think about the concept vocabulary words in terms of their characteristics. It allows the students to move away from just writing down textbook definitions to understanding specific features and knowledge about the key concept of vocabulary. It also allows for students to engage in the discipline-specific course to show their understanding. So if you take a look at this handout, you have your directions at the top, which clearly shows you what you need to do, how you're going to work with this. You can start with, a lot of you are on geometry. You emailed that response back to me. So you pull out your geometry units. With your team, you're going to select your major concepts students will need to use during that study of this topic. So those, your key vocabulary words, which we call like tier 2 words, and then, or tier 3, excuse me, words, vocabulary words, and then you're going to develop the features. So I gave you the example on the screen. So if you're using this, your features are going to be at the top. So I show you clearly that on your graphic organizer. So your features are going to be at the top, and then your terms are going to be in row 1. So you'll see that here. You'll list that with your team. And then you're going to once you have your graphic organizer filled out, then you're going to discuss it with your team as if you were students. Because what would happen is you would ask your students to complete this graphic organizer, fill in the X's for those shared features or shared characteristics, and then the students would then have a discussion in their groups to defend the choices that they made. So you're going to not only build this graphic organizer that your students will then eventually use, but then you're going to discuss with your teammates why you believe that those terms are relevant, why you believe the features are correct. In other words, you're going to be like that student and you're going to defend your graphic organizer that you just had. So I'm going to set the timer for about 15 minutes for this activity, and then I'll check in with you to see where you are, and then we will come back together as a group. All right, so how did that feel? I hope that as I walked around, I really did get a sense that, you guys were engaged in the activity. You were going through not only pulling in your features, but then as you transition from the teacher role to kind of the student role, how you were beginning to fill in those spaces. So that's kind of what you want, that engagement in your classroom. Again, you're still doing math, but again, your students are beginning to really understand more about the vocabulary words, or seeing the features, the characteristics, and how they are, maybe even some overlaps between key terms, so the relationship between key terms. And that's really what we want with that vocabulary, that semantic feature analysis. So the next activity that we're going to engage in, just to keep you guys going, because I feel the energy in the room, and that's really exciting. So I want to keep you guys going. So now, in that same unit that you worked on with the vocabulary, I want you to turn to maybe your first lesson, your second lesson, but I want you to find, and again, this was a census that went out, and the response I got back that each of you had at least one word problem that you could look at. So that's the word problem that you're going to choose with your team today, and we're going to use that word problem to complete the problem solving strategy handout. So again, this handout is on your desk as well, or in your table groups. So each of you, if you could please get this. Now, during this time with the problem solving strategy, what I want you to do with this activity is first you're going to work on this individually. You're not going to work on it as a table group. Each of you have your TEs, you have the word problem that has been chosen for your team, and we're going to use this strategy to really think about the comprehension. We want to get the students to dive really deep into that reading comprehension. So with this strategy, it allows your students to go deeper into the word problem and help them understand it. In the English language classroom, or in the English classroom, we would call this close reading. So it is close reading, and it is possible in the math classroom as well. It's just that they're going to be analyzing, they're going to be interpreting, they're going to be learning how to communicate, they're going to be actively involved in dissecting that word problem. So if you look at your problem solving strategy, there's 6 steps. It is what is the problem? You're going to translate the problem in mathematical language. For your students, that's like finding the equation. What is it that you need to solve? You're going to list the essential information for solving. What information is unknown? 4, what are the steps? So this gets the students to write out their plan. What is the step 1, 2, and 3? Then finally, they begin to move into solving their problem, and then they're going to end with that reflection, which is one of your mathematical practices. What worked? What did I miss? What do I need to pay attention to the next time? So again, similar to what we just did with the other activity, I'm going to pause. I'm going to stop talking, and I'm going to give you your chance individually to work through, and then we will also move to the conclusion of our workshop. All right, thank you guys so much. So the last part is, now that you've done your vocabulary, problem solving, the last piece is just the accountability piece. There's no form, there's nothing that you need to talk, it's just being the facilitator in the room. So all you need to do is start bringing in those questions. For example, what is happening in this situation? How did you solve that? And then basically you get the students to